does it mean by original? So you collect your data, you analyze your data, you interpret your data, you write the report, then publish. These are called the primary type. Okay? You could not follow? I am discussing the primary. Primary means you collect your own data, you design collecting your own data, you analyze your data, then you interpret your data, you write the report, and you publish. This is called the primary. Okay? Primary type manuscript documents records. It may be published or unpublished. So published, those who are published, it's easy to get nowadays from the internet, also from the libraries. But in case of unpublished, you have to communicate with the relevant researchers or the relevant organizations. Secondary. Secondary means a published or unpublished work that relies on the primary sources. For instance, is the review article, the literature review of the thesis, film documentaries. Because the review article, you know, that you have done hundreds of literature. You have gone through the hundreds of literature on a same topic. Then you have written synthesize them and write a report. So this is called the secondary type. Okay. So these are based on the primary literature. Okay. Then tertiary. Tertiary is, these are the indexes or textual consolidation of primary and secondary sources. You know the indexes. The guidebook, user guide, then bibliography, encyclopedia. These are the tertiary type literatures. There are some gray literature also. So it's a very catchy terminology, isn't it? Gray literature. Nice to hear. Oh, very, very catchy. Oh, gray literature, what is this? Isn't it? So a gray literature, it refers to published and unpublished materials that do not have an international standard book. You know the ISBN? And also the international standard serial number, ISSN number. These are called the gray literature. Okay? What they include? Conference paper, unpublished research thesis, newspaper article, any technical report. Okay? Those who, because a published article always has the ISSN number and books have BN number. Okay? Those articles who do not have this number, they are called the gray literature. What will be the direction of literature? It's the inverted pyramid. So, now you can learn, because you are now going through the literature, isn't it? Every research team. Every mini research team, isn't it? So at first you have to start with global aspect. What actually known on the topic globally? Then you have to narrow down. What does it mean? Narrow means first global, then regional, then specific country, then specific district, specific village, specific population. So this is broader to narrower. That's why it is the inverted pyramid. So always you have to write down in this way. Okay, I can start with regional, then I can come. No. So you have to arrange your literature review in this way. First, global, regional, country, district, village, specific population, okay? arrange your literature review in this way. Also, it is important to, and in the beginning, for instances, you have gone for your mini research also. If you gone through 10 articles, if you arrange them in this way, in the tabular form, study location and time, then what design they have followed, and what are the topic actually of your research, then what are the variables they have used and results in this way, then it is very easier for you to synthesize them. So I always suggest the students, at first, when you go through your literature, please just write them in a tabular form, arrange them in a tabular form, in a structured way. Then you can synthesize in your write-up. Okay? How do you synthesize? How do you arrange them? At first, global aspect, then regional aspect, then country, blah blah blah. Okay? So this is, if you know how to do this, then it is very easy. If you do not know, then you will sink in the water. You cannot float. So how do you find the article using research database? I think all of you know about it, isn't it? Huh? How do you search it? Search the literature? So you have to choose a database first, isn't it? But nowadays, library, in our library, we also have the database, so it is easy to get. And this is important, how only, okay, you have the database, but this is important how to do that. You can search by topic, you can search by the title, you can search by using the author's name. You can, because we always prefer the new literature, so you can also restrict them by using the year. Okay, so nowadays it is very easy, and I hope you know that. And you can also communicate in your library. But I hope you can download, because whatever the topic you choose for your mini research, you can download from the internet. Nowadays it is easy. Life is very easy now. Everything is in your hand, isn't it? So these are all sort of things that I already have told you. Now, the understanding the conceptual framework. So you have done a literature, okay, review, reading, blah and blah, but how do you arrange them? Drawing a conceptual framework is very important. What happens to you, guys, while you are talking by yourselves? If you have any question, please raise your hand. No question, but why you are talking then? So understanding the conceptual framework, this is very important. Conceptual framework, what does it mean by conceptual framework? You have to arrange your concept within a framework, within a diagram. Then it is very easy to. If you look at the diagram, okay, that because yesterday I showed you a little bit. If it is an outcome variable, what are the independent variables, then just show how they are associated to each other. Okay? So this is very important. What is conceptual framework? It's a diagram. It is a diagram that proposes the relationship among sets of concept, factor or variables. It's the same thing but different terms. Variables or factors or concepts about a particular hypothetical hypothesis, question, and problem or topic. For instances, if you choose, you are going to, or give you some example. You can give me some example. Obesity? Fast food and obesity. Okay. Yes, you want to look at the fast food and obesity association taking. So, what should be the directions? Whether obesity direct the fast food or fast food direct obesity? Yes. So, actually this is the diagram. Okay? That shows the relationship, how actually they influence each other. So, this diagram is called the conceptual program. Okay? And use of conceptual diagram, how you can use this? What is the use of the conceptual framework? Because conceptual framework organize and synthesize the knowledge. It defines the concepts or variables or factors. It also provides explanation of causal and associative linkage that you told me now. The causal association or linkages, how it is linked. The fast food causes the obesity. So link should be read in this way, isn't it? So conceptual framework shows that. It also generates hypothesis or a specific research question. It identifies variables to be operationalized and anticipate analytical approaches. So, for example, fast food, people who eat fast food, they are more risk to be obese. So, you know what should be the outcome variable, what is the independent variable? What should be the outcome variable? Obesity. And independent variable should be fast food. So if you draw this conceptual framework, it is very easy. If people just look at the conceptual framework, they can easily understand what is the dependent variable, what is the independent variable, and what is the direction of the association. Who is the cause and who is the effect. Okay? So this is a very useful diagram. You understand? So, before constructing the conceptual framework, this is very important to identify what is your endpoint of research. What is your outcome variable? What is the target point of an intervention? You have to decide. Conceptual framework will not decide. You have to decide which should be your outcome variable. Then you have to draw the conceptual framework. And second thing is, you have to identify what other important and relevant variables for your research. Dependent variable is obesity. Okay? And what other independent variable? One of the variable, your main exposure variable is, main independent variable is fast food. But there are many other factors that influence to become obese. What they are? Genetics, physical activities, gender, isn't it? So they should also to be here. So you have to decide first what should be other important variable. Then identify the potential correlates based on the empirical and theoretical evidence. It's the same. Okay? And how do you identify these variables? How? Literature review. Because literature review is the key. You can, because what I am talking about, you also participate in this discussion. Obesity, fast food is one. How do you know that? in website, in newspaper, but isn't it? The grey literature, these are the grey literature. But from the literature review, how do you know that? The age, gender is also independent variable for the obese? From the literature review. How do you know that? The genetics is a risk factor for obese? From literature review. Isn't it? So you have to identify all relevant variables from the literature review. But there are many variables, because when you attend the biostatistics class, you will learn many other variables, but from the analytical point of view, for your analyzing your data, okay? But for constructing the conceptual framework, these three kinds of variables you need to know. These three types of variables. First is independent and dependent variables. Second is extraneous and confounding variables. Do you hear about this? Confounding variables? No. Dependent, independent? Yes. Okay, but you can learn today. And third point is mediating or intermediate variable and moderating variables. So, for constructing a conceptual variable, these three categories of variables are important. Okay? Any question? Yes? I am coming. Because this only the name. Without explaining it, you cannot understand. I am coming one by one. So, here is the dependent and independent variables. Independent variables act as the cause, because they precede, influence and predict the dependent variable. For example, the obesity is the dependent, and fast food independent, gender independent, genetics independent, because they actually precede obesity. Okay, so they are acting as a cause, independent variable. You understand? And dependent variable, they are actually act as the effect. Effect of what? Effect of the independent variable. Because they change as a result of being influenced by an independent variable. Oh, you understand? Now? So these are the different definition of dependent and independent variable. Dependent, I am dependent on someone. Independent, I am not dependent on anyone, but I influence. So you can understand from the meaning of the word. Okay? So now the confounding and extraneous variable. Confounding variable of the independent variable. These are the independent variables that obscures the effect of another. Another means the main exposure variable on outcome variable. Now I have to draw. For instances, how do you do that? Okay, you give the example of obesity, isn't it?
Yes.
And here is the main exposure is? Your interest is fast food. So, direction is like that. And tell me the another factor. For instance, is the gender. Gender, this variable, because I have a class with you, a separate class on confounder. Confounder is a very important thing for research. So I will elaborate you on this class. And confounder is very interesting. For instance, gender. Gender influences obesity, and at the same time gender influences the fast food. Also, here, maybe you can assume that boys are
less likely.
less or more?
Less
Okay. So, there is an association, isn't it? Fast food and gender, and also it is associated with the obesity. So this is a confounder. It is an independent variable, also a confounder. So at the same time, because you know the fast food is influencing this, but when gender comes, because in the real world you are existing a combination of variables, not only one variable. So all are together. We are living with all of the variables together, isn't it? So only fast food cannot influence obesity. At the same time, it also has an effect. So how gender works? Gender influences this, gender influences this. At the same time, as a result of that, this influence is obscured. It may be weakened or may be strengthened. You understand?
Yes.
So in that case, you can call gender is a confounder. Now you understand? What is confounder? So confounder an independent variable that obscure the effect between main exposure variable and the outcome variable. An extraneous variable, a variable that an investigator doesn't wish to examine in the study. So, investigator always want to control that variable. This is called the covariate. Covariate means covariate is if gender influence only on obesity, not on fast food, then gender called the covariate. You understand? You understand?
No.
So covariate is, it is also an independent variable, but it only influences the outcome variable, not the main exposure variable. Then gender is the covariate, not the confounder. Confounder always associated both, but covariate only associated with the outcome variable. You understand? You understand the difference? This is important. So now mediating and moderating variables. Mediating, its synonym is intervening or intermediate variables. So, for example, parents transmit their social status to their children directly, but they also do so indirectly through education. If I have higher income, my status is higher, isn't it? But if I have higher income, also high education, then through education, my children's status will be higher. So, main exposure variable acting through education on the outcome variable. You understand? No? That's why the conceptual framework is important. When I only read this, you cannot understand. When I draw this, you understand, isn't it?
Yes.
That's why conceptual framework is important. So people can easily understand. You understand?
I don't see what?
It takes time. So, for instances, what I have written over there? You know, it works in this way, through education. Then it is called the, education is the intermediate period. Now you understand? Everybody understand? This is important. And moderating variable. Oh.